Welcome back to Wide Open. This is a place to pause, think, and ask the kind of questions that shape how everyday Kansans lead in their local communities. Our goal here isn't to advocate for a side, but to curiously explore ideas, to look at the systems, the people, and the choices that make our communities what they are and what they could become. This season, we're asking one big question across several episodes. How should cities be governed? Should they use a council-manager form of government, where a professional city manager is empowered to lead the administrative work of the city? Or should they deploy a strong mayor-council form, where leadership is centralized, with one elected leader in the mayor? If you're 3 episodes in, then perhaps you agree that our exploration is about something more than structure. It's about leadership, trust, and how communities choose to move forward together. I'm Evan Roselle, and you're listening to Wide Open. Many of us have heard the old adage, the only constant is change. And that's largely true. But gravity doesn't change, nor do death and taxes. Many things don't change. In other words, while some things constantly change, other things don't, and they hold us steady. We adapt to the things that are changing, and we appreciate and design around those things that don't, or shouldn't. And whether in a company or a community, the art of leadership is to understand which is which. For many Kansas communities, that discernment has led them to another classic adage: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Most Kansas cities above a certain size have chosen to stay with the council-manager form of government, a model that focuses on steadiness, professionalism, and trust in the experts. In this episode, we'll be diving into this model. What is it? What's the role of the city manager, the mayor, and the council in this model? What are its strengths and drawbacks? And after a century of proving itself, why would some people want to move away from it? So what is a council-manager form of government? You've heard us reference it several times thus far, but how does it work operationally? At its core, this model depends on expertise and collaboration, on professionals who understand the technical details most of us rarely, if ever, think about, the things that make a city livable, reliable, and safe. Here's Dr. John Nalbandian talking about the technical expertise needed from a city manager.
The quality of a person's life in a metropolitan area depends so much on not just the arts and culture and all of that, but does the trash get picked up? Is the water clean? Is the wastewater that's dispersed into the river, is it clean? You know, let me tell you a little story. I used to facilitate a class in infrastructure management. So I didn't teach it. I just took them out to see stuff, And we went to a wastewater treatment plant. Absolutely fascinating. Guy takes us through there. Then he gets to the last place where the wastewater, which has been treated, is going to flow into the river. And he holds up a glass of water, and then he holds up a glass of water from the tap. And he says, which one of these is tap water? Which one of these is wastewater? You can't tell. And what he said was, the water that we are dispersing into the river, the wastewater is cleaner than the water that we were taking in from the river to treat. So that's an example of the technical side of things, okay? And a mayor, no matter who the mayor is, they don't have to understand the nuts and bolts, but they do have to understand that they need quality people in those positions, and that's becoming increasingly important and challenging.
He's talking about hiring professionals, experts. That's the strongest argument behind the council-manager form of government. This idea that there's so many technical moving parts that happen every day, apolitical things, that you need good, earnest expertise behind the wheel. According to the International City Managers Association, city managers, quote, bring to the table technical knowledge, experience, academic training, management expertise, a community-wide perspective toward policies and programs, cost-effective service delivery techniques, and a dedication to public service, end quote. Everyone agrees that we need experts making sure the practical, if not really complicated, elements of city life are running smoothly. The real question is, how do we get there? This leads me to a bigger question. What is the role of expertise as it's perceived in society and culture today? Is it as valued as it was a century ago when the council manager model first emerged? When that model was introduced, the idea of a professional manager carried a clear appeal and a promise of stability and competence in an increasingly complex world. And perhaps that belief still holds strong in many places and with many people, but now it exists within a different context. As populist themes emerge across the country and globe, and as communities place new emphasis on responsiveness and participation and shared ownership in local decisions, how does this changing environment shape the work of those experts leading our cities today? It's not really a question with a simple answer, but I do think it's one worth holding. Because this potential tension between professional expertise and public voice sits at the heart not only of our central question here, but also in how communities move themselves forward. But back to the role of the city manager. It's both technical and collaborative. The city manager must work well with the mayor and the council and stakeholders within the community. If the technical side of city management is about competence and expertise, then the collaborative side is about trust and relationships. Working with a mayor and a council means that the city manager must balance perspectives. They must provide clear and consistent information to everyone and stay focused on policy over politics. Here's Kathy Sexton reflecting on the collaborative neutrality that's required from a city manager in this council manager context.
Part of the early 1900s professionalization of management and government, part of what came out of that is the International City County Management Association that we all belong to, or many of us belong to, and it literally has a code of ethics that began in the 1920s. It gets updated for modern times, and it literally says things like, if you're a professional city manager, you cannot participate in partisan politics. You will provide the same quality information to every elected official on your board, regardless of whether you agree with their politics, regardless of whether you like them or not. Every elected official has the same level of status that way. And so if I am a professional member of this ICMA, then I decide that I'm going to follow this code of ethics. And what it's been proven over time, over these decades, is that that's how the council manager form works the best, is when a nonpartisan professional manager can work for all the elected officials. Look at any elected body that you can think of right now. They're going to believe different things and want to vote different ways. Well, it's pretty important that I, as the city manager, would not give one of them information to help their cause that I don't give the same information to all of them. So it's out of respect and it's out of deference to, they're the politicians. They have to make the important decisions. The manager enacts the decisions they make, and before they make the decisions, tries to provide them with equal and quality information so they're making good decisions based on the same information.
This mutual understanding of trust, boundaries, and shared purpose is what makes the council manager model work, and it's what gives the city manager space to lead. So what does that leadership look like in practice? Okay, so beyond the technical expertise of a city manager and their collaboration with the mayor and the council, what does a city manager actually do? So according to the International City Managers Association, that's ICMA, you just heard Kathy mention that a second ago, a city manager's job boils down to several key items. It's a big list, and we're going to do lightning round here. You ready? Okay, first, at the core of it, a city manager works with elected officials, like we've been talking about, to develop responses to community challenges through resources, programs, and connections to other community assets. And second, they also prepare the annual budget for the mayor and the council's approval. And they put together the capital improvement plan, which is like the investment in all of our city and community's big infrastructure. Importantly, they oversee the delivery of city services. A big list, things like public works, police, fire, public safety, planning and economic development, parks and recreation, libraries, youth services, resource and recovery and recycling, sanitation, and many more things. And beyond that, they also seek and apply for federal and state and private foundation grant funding for various programs across the city. And as an organizational leader, they recruit, hire, supervise the municipal workforce. And to many, their most important role is to ensure that the laws and policies of our communities are enforced fairly and that the government runs ethically and transparently. Okay, if you're like me, this seems like a really wide-ranging role. And that's because it is. And of course, different city managers will engage these tasks in different ways, and for that matter, mayors and councils do too. But at its base, the city manager is a connector. Think of a hinge. One side attached to the elected leadership, the mayor and the council, while the other connected to the city's operational apparatus. When it works well, this connecting hinge allows the door to swing freely, connecting vision to execution without either side losing its balance. The notion that the city manager is the executive authority is one of the biggest differentiators between the council-manager model and the mayor-council model. In the council-manager model, that executive authority is still anchored in the will of the people, and that's expressed through those who we elect, our mayor, our city council members. Proponents of the council-manager model describe the relationship of the city manager and the electeds like that of a CEO to a board of directors, with the city manager playing the role of CEO of a city, making decisions, leading the staff, and making recommendations to the mayor and council based on both policy and their expertise of good government. And then the electeds, the mayor and the city council, function like a board of directors, representing the citizens, kind of like shareholders, while they set vision and hold the city staff accountable for results. It's a system built on balance, professional management on one side and public leadership on the other. Okay, so if the city manager is the CEO of the city, and the elected leaders function like a board of directors, then what is the mayor's role in this model? It might actually be helpful to think of the mayor as the chair of the board of directors. While their vote carries the same weight as the other council members, it doesn't mean that the mayor's role is the same. The mayor leads in a different way. While they don't run the daily operations of the city, they do help guide the public conversation by framing ideas, rallying consensus amongst the council, and representing the community to outside companies or stakeholders. Usually elected by the whole city, the mayor is often the most front-facing voice, explaining, uniting, and advancing a shared vision of the community. Here's Kathy Sexton explaining the role of a mayor in a council-manager form of government.
So the mayor may have the same vote as council members, but they're not exactly equal. They're equal on the voting and on the administrative part because they all give their direction and orders to the city manager. But the mayor has other duties that the council members don't have. The mayor is the spokesperson for the community. They're the defender of the community. You have to have someone who stands up and says, the council voted on this is what we're going to do. Now I'm the spokesperson. I'm the one who says, this is the city's decision. We're going to build a water treatment plant. We're going to do this. Defending those decisions and helping people understand why it's important to issue a bond to pay for a new building or whatever it is. The mayor's also a leader of the council. So put yourself in the beginning stage. The mayor has to try to understand what the people think and feel, as well as understand the facts of any given issue or problem, as well as looking out there. What do my grandkids need? For them to want to live in our town, what do my grandkids need? I mean, as a leader of the council, the mayor's role is to put forth out there issues to be thought about, issues to consider in making decisions and to helping. I've really seen good mayors who help frame the issue for their council members. But as a mayor, your job is to think of the bigger picture and to try to say, well, let's see, we've got council members with this problem over here and this problem over here. How do we reach a consensus? How do we reach a compromise? How do we set forth a path to reach both of their goals? So it's hard to be a mayor.
Kathy's right. It's hard to be a mayor, especially in a council manager form of government, where you're often perceived as having authority that you don't actually have. And you're tasked with taking an overarching view of a community, building consensus for things across the council, and communicating that consensus back to the public. This is hard work. But in partnership with the council, and the city manager, and the city staff, proponents of this model say that it can create the harmony that's needed to drive a city forward. In fact, these proponents point to this as a strength of the model. By allowing the city manager and the city staff to sort out the day-to-day operational things, it may actually free up the mayor and the council members to tackle those big, complex issues facing a community. Here's Kathy Sexton explaining that dynamic.
The first role of being a city manager is knowing how to adjust to the will of the people. The will of the people is expressed through those elected officials. And so when you're in a council manager form, one of the roles and lessons for the mayor is to understand what's administrative and what's something simple. I should just, hey, there's a fire hydrant over there spewing water out. Mm-hmm. That's administrative. We can fix that. These are wicked problems that are not easy to solve. They require big picture thinking, generational change, something really, it's hard versus the day-to-day administrative. And that's why being an elected official is hard.
The role of a mayor in a council manager form of government is one that wears many hats. To lead the council, build consensus, shape long-term vision, and represent the community to both internal and external stakeholders. It's a role that asks for both humility and vision, listening closely while leading forward. But as cities grow, and with that expectations rise, some think that balance is getting harder and harder to hold, while others see it as the very thing that makes for steady, effective government. Like any human system, whether it's a business, school, church, whatever, there are benefits and drawbacks to different models. Same with local government. But let's take a look at the benefits of the council manager model. For more than a century, supporters of the council manager system have seen it as one of the great innovations in American local government, a way to pair democracy with expertise in a way that ensures that the important functions of government operate with stability and excellence. They argue that by keeping politics separate from administration and operations, cities can achieve both fairness and function. And to many, that balance remains as relevant now as it was when the model first took shape. I asked Kathy Sexton for her take about the benefits of the council manager model.
I will say from my experience, the more you can have professionals running the day-to-day and the electeds focused on policies and the bigger picture and the long term, the better off we are. Hiring professionals in that you can appreciate that they have experience, they have skills, they have ethics codes, they have standards and education is very important. You will never achieve efficient government without hiring people who are knowledgeable and not just hiring them, but having systems in place that demand accountability. You cannot go back to the old days where you get a job in government and you're set for life. No. We haven't had that for 30 years in Kansas. You get a job in government and you better perform or you will lose that job. And that requires professional management. We have to nurture them. We have to love them. We have to develop them and train them and set the bar and help them be fulfilled in their jobs and love their jobs. And we can do that in local government because it's a great place to work in so many ways.
Dr. Nalbandian also echoes the notion of the council manager model as the sweet spot between experience and expertise, especially when serving alongside elected leaders who may not have spent decades in local government.
Think about core leadership. and think about coming up the ranks or your education. And then, you've been to this conference, that conference. By the time you get up to that position like city manager, by the time you get up there, you are prepared.
In a recent International City Managers Association podcast, host Angela Waddell notes, quote, "We're living in a time when public trust in institutions is fragile, and the daily challenges of governing are growing more complex. Even so, ICMA, that's International City Managers Association, has seen time and time again that the council manager form of government remains one of the most reliable ways to deliver stability, transparency, and professional excellence to our communities," end quote. ICMA touts many other benefits of the council manager model too. They say that 2/3 of Moody's AAA bond-rated communities are run by professional local government managers, and many of those operate under the council manager model. They also cite studies that find that cities operating with the council manager form of government are nearly 10% more efficient than those operating with the mayor-council form. But perhaps the greatest argument is the data of how widely this form of government is used. According to that same association, across the country, 54% of the municipalities with populations of 10,000 or more use the council manager form of government, as do 59% of the municipalities with populations over 100,000. Given its history and widespread adoption, many thinkers fall into the "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" camp, not out of apathy, but conviction. To them, the council manager model hasn't just endured, it's proven itself to be the best possible way to run a city. Still, though, after 100 years, some wonder whether even a well-oiled system should evolve. If it's lasted 100 years, is change really necessary? Others think so. As we've said before, there's no perfect model in any kind of human system. So what are the downsides to the council manager model? What are the risks? Some detractors point to the democratic distance it creates from voters and the effect of diluting a city's executive power between multiple roles. Others point to the risk of fragmented vision without a fully empowered mayor. Even proponents of the council manager system can see places to watch out for. Here's Kathy Sexton again on the potential risks that she sees with this model.
I think the risk to the model is that we don't respect everyone's roles. For example, maybe we elected officials get lax when we have a good manager and they're handling things. Maybe the elected officials aren't as active as they could be. I think a risk is the manager manages the day-to-day and they're not taking on as actively as they should the role of helping the elected officials be better elected officials, helping them understand that your role as elected officials is to talk big picture and to talk policy and to give me direction, not to perhaps lament about not being involved in day-to-day. Why would you want to be involved in day-to-day management? What you want is change for your community. You want big picture change. But getting there is difficult. So encouraging your elected officials to, go to the training and go and participate in bigger picture conversations. Call your legislators, make a relationship with your county commissioners and your school board members, and so that you can get more done on a bigger policy scale, because that's harder. Mm-hmm. That's way harder than managing the day-to-day, in my opinion.
And again, Dr. Nalbandian echoes a similar idea.
The biggest risk is abdicating political responsibility to the city manager.
And in so doing, lose the voice of the people.
Exactly. And when it comes time, when the people don't want to hear from the city manager, we had a flood. I don't want to hear from the city manager. I don't care whether I want to hear from the mayor. And everybody knows it's the mayor's the one who's got to speak at that point, And the potential problem in council manager government is that the council tends to rely so much on the staff.
As we heard in our last episode from Dr. Fox, a council manager form of government weakens a mayor's ability to build affection and community bonds and vision within a city. I asked him about the mayor's role in a council manager form of government and he had this to say.
A good mayor will be a good participant on the city council, someone who looks to see how other people are voting and talks to them about how they're going to vote on the various choices that the city manager brings before them, and will, to whatever extent, use connections to try to lean on people one way or another. But, they will be a participant on the council. And then they'll be a really good figurehead. On top of that, they'll get out to all of the festivals, they'll get out to all of the symbolic events, and they will represent the city well. I don't want to say that there is no representation, there is no affection, there is no community bonds under a council manager system. Obviously, there are lots of examples of that existing. I just think that simply on the level of ideas, it's hard to deny. It's hard for me to deny that the likelihood of any of those things existing under a strong mayor system is that much more likely.
In our last episode, when we examined the mayor-council model, Dr. Fox presented several arguments. His argument for a strong mayor form of government is, in effect, an argument against the council-mayor form. So although the council-manager form of government has a strong legacy, there are those who question whether or not it should have a place in our future. After over a century, many communities view the council-manager model as fostering steadiness, dependability, and trust in the essential operation of their city governments. To its supporters, the choice is clear, both in terms of the data and the legacy. Yet the desire for clear leadership and adaptability to a changing world, well, that's real too. Can the council-manager model flex us into the next century? In our fourth and final episode, we'll take a look at cities growing and thriving under different systems, and we'll examine the question of whether the structure or the leadership is what truly drives success for cities. See you next time on Wide Open.